Today is Wednesday, December 4th, and today's agricultural fact of the day pertains to raw milk and some recalls with that. So today's ag fact: Raw Farm LLC, formerly known as Organic Pastures Dairy LLC, samples tested positive for avian influenza, and all Raw Farms LLC operations are currently under quarantine, from herds to bottled products, which means that all raw milk distribution is suspended. Earlier in the year, a salmonella outbreak linked to the farm affected dozens of individuals, marking a significant health incident that led officials to urge consumers to avoid any unpasteurized dairy products. In 2023, cheese from this farm was linked to an E. coli outbreak that impacted at least 10 consumers. This farm is the largest raw milk dairy in the United States, with 1,700 cows producing 70,000 gallons of milk weekly. I do know that some of my followers are getting sick of the information with recalls, but this does provide an educational opportunity when it comes to the importance of food production and food safety. There are many people on social media that will live and unalive by the stance that raw milk is healthier for you. And although in this instance, there's not people that are currently being infected by avian influenza, those samples that tested positive were not sent out for distribution, it is still a possibility to get sick if you are taking the risk of consuming raw milk. As you can see, this farm kind of has a history of having some issues. The pasteurization process has become a standard for the industry for a reason, and if we can prevent people from getting sick by these contaminated products and potentially being unalive, the government is going to want to prevent that from happening. Can people still consume raw milk and not get sick? Yes, that is true. However, with this avian influenza detection, it does become of concern because up until now, there have been very isolated instances of humans getting infected with this strain of HPAI, highly pathogenic avian influenza, and most of them were linked to dairy farm workers. So whether they were consuming the milk or they were coming in close contact with those cows, but the fact that this milk is not undergoing pasteurization to kill the avian influenza virus and is being distributed on a larger scale for people to consume as a raw product, it then poses the risk of potentially contaminating a larger population and making it a bigger issue if it does end up entering humans on a larger scale. I did touch on this back in April when avian influenza was first detected in dairy cows and that it was being transmitted through their milk. And the pasteurization process through research has been shown to kill that. So if you are consuming raw milk, just be aware that you are assuming that risk, that potentially that could become a problem, especially in a state like California where they're having increased instances of avian influenza being tested for positive in milk samples. Personally, with this farm's history, now I know freak things happen, but E. coli is a concern. And salmonella is also a concern when it comes to foodborne illnesses. And both of those would have been prevented had they not been selling a raw milk product. Anyway, we had a snow day yesterday, which is why I did not record an ag fact of the day for yesterday, but we are back into operations. Of course, another snowstorm is supposed to hit Thursday. So such is life in the lake effect country. I also did forget to mention this information came from Ag Daily, which is where some of my information does come from on a routine basis. So that's where the information was drawn from.